Go ahead, Bill. I'll let you take off with you.
Oh, crying. I was getting out too good. All right. Hey, I'm Bill Campbell of Rosarium Publishing. Yeah, my daughter is named after Rosa Parks and Zora Neale Hurston. Her name is Rosa Neale, and this is Rosarium. Right. Basically, it started 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago, because I was an independent science fiction writer with a really huge New York agent. When Washington Post Book World was actually a thing, like they did a profile on my agent. Like they never do that. Like that's the kind of. But he couldn't sell anything that I did because apparently I wasn't ghetto enough. And you know, it's like my dad's from Kingston, Jamaica. My mom's from small mining towns in western Pennsylvania. So you know, I grew up in small mining towns in the suburbs. So you know, just an accident of birth. And then I just thought how asinine it was because you know. White people aren't told that they're not Appalachian enough or that they're not authentically San Diegoan. Is that a word?
I think it is.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. So I was just like, you know, so what ended up happening was because fuck you was on my mind, I wrote this book called Coontown Killing People, which was just turning the white media gaze on itself. And yeah, I lost my agent and I used to get banned from places for that. But what ended up happening was that book entered academia. So selling these books out of the back of my car, I would have to like fly places to give like college lectures on this book, right? And then my first book, some guy started writing part of his PhD dissertation on the book, which I guess you just. So it was like science fictional reactions to war, and it was like me, Ursula K. Le Guin, Robert Heinlein, Joe Holderman, and I was just like, wow. You know, and then in those university classes, I was being taught alongside Tim O'Brien and Toni Morrison and like Richard Reich, Achebe, just like all these like really spectacular people, which was kind of weird, but you know, whatever. I've been told that you know if you're in among the big dogs, you are a big dog. I don't really buy that, but at the same time, you know, it's just like it just shows you like there is some sort of legitimacy in what you do. And so I was like, you can't be good enough for academia. You can't be good enough to be considered for the canon and not be good enough for a publisher. So then that just told me that publishing was wrong. I wasn't wrong. All those years they were telling me I was wrong. So that obviously that's not the case. So that was basically how Rosarium started because with Coontown I was doing some comic book conventions too because it does well there. And I would just meet like these artists and stuff who I thought were really talented and I couldn't figure out why they weren't published. And one of them was John Jennings, who wasn't being published at the time. And now this guy has like 2 Eisners and Bram Stoker and Nebula. He's been a New York Times bestseller several times. Abrams, which is like this huge multinational comic book company, gave him his own imprint. And the 2 books he's done with me have been optioned, one by Warner Brothers TV and another from Disney. But literally 10 years ago, they said that he wasn't going to be published. Right. So, you know, we kind of know why. Well, we do know why. So then that's how Rosarium was born. I was just like, all these people can't be, you know, and obviously they're wrong about us. And they're not looking at like the demographics of this country because we want to hold on to this idea that this is a white country. And yeah, 10 years from now, it's just not. And it never has been, and it will never be again. So yeah, that was pretty much how we started. And we started with this science fiction anthology called Mothership, Tales from Afrofuturism and Beyond. It was weird because we were absolutely nobody, but we figured since we were nobody, we could ask. Because if people said no, they wouldn't remember who we were. so we ended up getting really lucky, like really huge authors and like some science fiction legends. So like Juno Diaz is in it, Victor Laval, Lauren Bucus, S.P. Sontal, like all these famous people.
Can I add, what he just said is so important. Just taking that leap of, you don't know unless you ask.
Yeah.
So many points in my life were because of that. So if you underscore, take away from this, that's the biggest thing I think you can take away from this panel. You don't know unless you try it. You don't know unless you ask.
Yeah, and there's no sin in asking.
Yeah.
Because literally everybody who's successful who wasn't born rich has had to ask all the time. And literally, a lot of the people who are successful, if they have the time, they will do something if they believe in it. Like they'll give you their time. Like a lot of people are like highly more cooperative than you ever imagine, because we have this whole myth of capitalism as like do it yourself, pull yourself up by your own self-made man. And none of that is true. None of it. But anyway, so the weird thing is that like Mothership was like filled with like some famous people, and then the other weird thing is like we were really good at selecting, and I don't know how, because a lot of people who were just starting out are now like international bestsellers and stuff. So the weird thing that happened was, one, in the beginning, it launched us onto we jumped several steps, because how can you be nobody and have Juno Diaz in your anthology? So we like got pushed into conversations really quickly. But the other thing is that because it's has like this really huge table of contents with these people, the book just keeps going. Like it's literally 10 years old, but it hasn't stopped. Like it's been in the Smithsonian. And then like 2 years ago, NPR Books said that when you look at diversity in science fiction now, it starts with that book. So it kind of just launched us in a way. And it's a space that like a lot of people don't want us in, so it's not been like fun. Unless you like find it. Yeah, no, I do. I admit it. But it gets kind of taxing sometimes. But you know, it's all worth it, because we publish people from all around the world. Like our tagline, which started as a joke, was introducing the world to itself since 2013. But it's really true. Like we literally have just like introduced like so many people. Like we have this anthology of 105 short stories from around the world. And it's just sort of like, and basically we're just switching the cultural context, right? Like having it so it more represents like the world population and the US population. So, you know, we publish people literally from all over the world. Like, we have Uganda, we have Italy, we have Norway, we have Mexico. We just like, we're working on a Czech translation now. Like, I think that's the only one. And we're about to start working on some Brazilian, Portuguese, obviously. Yeah, it's really kind of exciting, even though, yeah, it is a really huge gap. Is that good? Do you want to go? From here? Well, we don't have a moderator, so we don't have your thing.
So yeah, we didn't know what we were going to talk about today. What's weird is like, I mean, I can follow that.
I mean, that's kind of the design, right? Like you sort of, so like nobody can follow.
Right. Well, you did a good job.
But I mean, it's not like you're chopped liver.
Right. Thank you. So yeah, Chris Pitzer with Adhouse. We're here because we are from Richmond. We've published for 20 years. We've published about 100 publications, and we've had some interesting, blips in our history, like Bill has. But I can't at all compare our house to his house, because it's, I come from a design background. I worked at Eclipse Comics for a year. And then essentially the origin story is there was a professor who taught here at VCU called Joel Pretty. And Joel had this wonderful story that ended up being our first book. But before it became our first book, a mutual friend sent it to me. And I was like, this is amazing. This needs to be published. And so I took it and I sent it to other publishers I knew, like Top Shelf, Fantagraphics, Dark Horse, and nobody got back to me, which, if you're submitting stuff you might be familiar with. So nobody got back to me. I went back to Joel and I said, listen, I'll start a publishing house if you want me to publish this thing. And we did, and back in the day, the Small Press Expo up in DC used to have a debut comics award. And the year we published, it won. So we got on the radar of a lot of people, so then people started submitting, and you go to these shows and you find creators you wouldn't mind working with, and you have ideas, and you create new projects. And we did that, like I said, for 20 years. And we actually closed shop back in 2022. So, I mean, I come with the knowledge of a certain generation. I think we both do, just based on our age. You have knowledge in one area, I have knowledge
I'm 27, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I have knowledge in another. So what I'm saying is, because of our age, I don't know how up to date our knowledge will be, but I hope whatever we can help you with will be helpful. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about Adhouse, but it's been a fun ride. I like working.
I mean, they're beautiful.
Yeah, I love production. I love design. Whatever I can do to make those books art objects, I'll do. We dabbled in digital comics for a bit, but we gave that up. It was too much of a headache when we really loved the actual printed book. Yeah.
I think that,
So let's talk about process. Like if somebody, I mentioned that up at your table.
right.
Do you want to talk about like the pitch process and like where it goes from there?
You know what? Since you made me open, I'm going to defer to you and then respond.
Okay.
It's like a debate. It's like a debate format.
That sounds good to me. So essentially, I assume if you're here to how to get your comics published, what it comes down to is submission, usually. So if I was getting submissions that work for me are usually, if it was printed, great. If you're sending me a sample that's printed out, great, it's easier to read. The next step would be it being digital, PDF. So, but both of those, I want to see 75 to 80% of whatever you envision it being. As I said before, in many places, it's really great to see character design or, plot points or things like that, but it doesn't really show the commitment that I need to see as a small press publishing house.
Wait, so, if I may ask.
Yeah.
So the 75%, that means like it needs to be at least 75% completed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, so here's a funny one, right? Because, basically, like I like you, like I never really published anything. Like I published like a trade magazine briefly, did zines, but they were more prose, right? Like we had this multinational arts and politics zine called Contraband back in the 90s. So like I know how to lay out a book, sort of. I had to teach myself. But the good thing is that I have like BJ and John and my brother, and they're like, yeah, let me do that. And I'm like, yes, you go. But like one of the funny things is because to be honest, I didn't know shit, right? So I was at this thing like, oh, I'm going to do comics, right? And this other comics publisher that I didn't realize at the time was actually giving me the best advice ever. Was like, yeah, we only publish stuff if it's already done. And then me, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm like, oh, I don't even know why you would do that. But I learned the hard way because we had so many projects that just kind of fizzled out. One, which is my favorite one, 4 out of the 5 issues were done.
Oh, man.
And he broke up with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he's like, I broke up with my girlfriend. And I was like, yeah, my dad died, and I still got your comic out. Is this the same? But anyway, yeah. So yeah, but he said that with that 75%. Yeah, write that down or get a tattoo. Like maybe like people go like when you die, they're like, why 75% on their wrist? Like that's a good number. It's a good number. But go ahead.
After I guess the submission. Just to give you an outline of how, I used to do this stuff. You get the submission, you like it, you talk to the creator, you come up with a contract, all that's done. And then after that, you take the scope of the work, figure out the packaging, and then you start to get quotes from the printer. And then start to deal at the same time with the distributor, having them put it in the catalog to make it available. And then it comes down to the magic of hoping everything comes together in the right time. Because to your point, yeah, I would start a couple of the big projects that weren't 75%. And obviously, it was like 3 or 4 years in the making. Right. It took that long. So you have those certain projects that happen that way. But, you get your orders in from the distributor. And for me, that was like bookstores and comic book shops and libraries. This is back in it. Again, this is like 20 years ago, so it was Diamond. Okay. They were my book distributor as well. And then you publish. Typically what your cost is, you either, one of the math things is you take the cost and triple it, or you take the cost and quadruple it, right?
Yeah.
That gets you into the ballpark of what the retail should be. Yeah. Because once, like the solicitor's not going to buy it at 100%, they're going to buy it 40%. So you need to be making money on,
diamond, right.
Yeah, you need to be making money on all those, parts. Otherwise, you're losing money and then you're out of business. So the orders come in, you print it, you send it back to the distributor, and then it arrives in the shops. Did I miss anything?
Sort of.
Yeah, I was trying to speed it up.
Oh, sorry. All right, don't we have time?
Well, no, if I missed stuff, please.
Oh, no,
Right,
no,
yeah,
well,
no.
I mean, it was like, well, yeah, this was more like in the weeds, that's why I asked you like the distributor.
Yeah.
So like, every different publisher has like different things, but like that's pretty much the model for like everybody, but like there are different things, like when you're dealing with, somebody like, like an Abrams or something, like one of these big multinationals, like, they can purchase something and give people advances on something that isn't completed at all, or it's just an idea, and then that artist or writer are in hell, because they're like, where is it? Where is it? Well, like literally like your whole life is now like, is like your publisher calling you up or your editor calling you up, and they're like, where is it? But, I mean, it's nice because, you didn't have to get it done, but once they, send you money, like, then it's a whole other thing. And this little footnote to that is, like, advances aren't what you think they are.
Yeah, they can,
They get parsed.
yeah, and, the publishers know what they're doing, so it comes out of your money eventually, and.
Yeah. So, like, because it's like, I laugh because, like, they'll announce that it's like $100,000 advance, and they're like, yeah, they don't tell you that it's like 6 payments over like 5 years, and so you actually didn't make that much money. like, like you can't necessarily survive on that. But yeah, so for us, like we were, like I'm just a lot more informal, and because I'm by myself with kids and all this, and I'm answerable to like way too many people, like our submission process is like really long. Like you just have to wait, and I just apologize. I'm like, look, this is going to take me months before I can even get to it. And like our advance is fine, but you're gonna pay your rent back. Like it's not anything.
Does everyone get an advance?
Yeah, no. Like when I first started, no, and then somebody just said, and I've like retro, like for things that like never made money, I just, took a bite, said like, hey, here's some money because people should get paid for what they do. But that was like literally just because of like I literally started Rosarium with no money, like at all, and like I didn't get my first. Let me see. Started in 2013. I think I got my first thing from my distributor in 2017. So that was like all out of my pocket, like everything. Like I worked to keep that going. But now it's just like everybody, and it's a variable, kind of depending on, like somebody sent me, stuff that was like already done for something else, and like, hey, do you want to do this? So like, you don't get paid as much for that as you would like if it was, from like scratch. Especially since they'd already gotten paid. So it was just more of like a token thing. So there's like all kinds of different ways that all these things go. I think one of the main things is, because I don't know how Diamond works like on that end. I mean, I know how previews works, but I don't know. So for us, because we work because we're a hybrid, like we do prose books and we do comics, but our publishing schedule is totally on the book basis. So basically, you're looking at like 18 months before the thing comes out. So like right now, like as we speak, I'm late for winter 24, 25. Like I'm always supposed to have that in the distributor. Like so that's like how far I'm in there. And that's what cover all the info, like literally like how long the book is, and I'm like I haven't even laid it out yet. Like even like we haven't even in the editing process. So it's like stuff like that. Which is why like we've actually purchased some things overseas, because so we have like a Guyanese horror coming from Italy, and we have like this Czech thing, and it was literally because they're already done. So I can like slot those in, like I need this, So it's like the 18 months thing, and then just it's a lot of hurry up and wait kind of thing, like because it's so far, like you kind of want to get that book saying like something get it into like reviewers' hands and stuff like pretty early. So you could be like, yeah, I need this, and they're like, okay, and like, why? You're like, well, I need to do this, and they're like, but the book's not coming out for 6 months. And then you come back to them like 2 months later, going like, okay, now we need to just do this, like, we need the final thing because we have to go to the printer right now, stuff like that. So the process it's a very weird thing because you're doing a lot of work up front for something that you're not going to see almost for a year and a half, a year, or whatever. And it's really hard mentally because you need to start working on something else and be ready to go back to that.
So to that point, I'll throw in a little tidbit of suggestion is try and have your cover as complete as possible when it comes to that year and a half advance thing. Because I've had instances where we put a cover up there, no, we can change it, but the internet keeps that cover up there. It's always going to be there now. And it wasn't a great cover design, but it's always going to be there. So just try and put your best foot forward when you're at each increment of publishing.
Yeah, we just recently changed the cover at the last minute. Complicated story. The old cover, I mean, it's really good because like artist review Ingram is very good at but yeah, once something's on the internet, it never disappears.
What's your process of publishing? So you accept something and then what do you do from there?
Well, for us, I mean, it's pretty much as you said. So basically, somebody submits something, months later, or we don't take submissions so much. A lot of it is sort of if you know me, or other people that I know you, that's a much bigger for us. And a lot of it has to do, especially in comics, is that reliability, right? Because you get burned with people yeah, I'm ready, and I'm going to do it. And I think one of the things that, I went and saw Octavia Butler once when I was in my early 20s, and she said success doesn't go to the most talented, it goes to the most persistent. And when I was that age, I was like, yeah, that's dumb. No offense, Octavia. But now that I'm in my 50s, it's literally the truest thing that you could ever get. So for us, because a project takes up so many of our resources, it's not just money, it's time and all this stuff. And if it never gets done, especially if it just appears in the catalog, and it's that can just kill a project, period. Because if something gets orders, I actually once had one book that literally the artist was watched the orders go down to by $6,000, and then when it hit $6,000, I was like, we're done, because I will never make a profit on this. I'm sorry, just keep that project to yourself now. I actually like things that are done now. Unless it's somebody who's in the circle. And before you judge, it's literally how life works. I mean, your friends are friends of friends first, or people you date are probably most of them have been in some sort of way in your social circle. That's kind of just how business is. We're human, we're social creatures. That's kind of it. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. You get accepted. And, you go over the contract, it says, ours is about as straightforward as you get because, we started this for artists. There's one little thing that gets a little weird because we're in Hollywood now. So our company has a Hollywood agent. So we and that gets weird. It gets really weird. Because people hear Hollywood, they think a bunch of money, and then all of a sudden people get and I'm no, it's still the lottery. You just have a better ticket. And I'm not trying to take anything from you, but they will. I mean, in one project, we're not even allowed to make, because it's Disney, and Disney is evil, we're not allowed to do T-shirts of because Disney takes everything, but we're out of that contract. But anyway, but everything else is pretty much straightforward because, we're not going to really make money, so it's not we just basically, as I explained it, we kind of lease your project. We never own it, but we lease it. But within that lease, you don't have as much say as you think that you do. Like you couldn't, for the most part, like you couldn't, depending on the contract, say like you couldn't come out with this book and then like, they're like, oh, I'm just gonna do a zine with that character in it. Like, if that's a defeat work, right? This is like, you know what I mean? This is like, it just always kind of depends, stuff like that. So like, that's definitely something that I say that people need to be familiar with, especially like in the indie comics thing. Like I've never really had this problem on like the SF side, but just like on the comic side, I've had like, yeah, like these things don't mean what, you know, like independent isn't real. And like, it's like sort of like, these things don't necessarily mean what you think. Like you're not really free to do whatever you want once you sign something. You know, and that's just something to be aware of. And to tell people, it's just sort of like, it's just part of like the process. Cause like we don't, as I said, like we don't take stuff. We're just like, this is what happens. You know, but like within that 5 years that we're doing something, like, you know, just can't have you going out there competing with yourself on that. But you can do other things, you know what I mean? And then you kind of just sit around and wonder, like, hey, why isn't Bill like hitting me up? Like, what's going on? And then, yeah, then all of a sudden I'll be like, once again, like their best friend. Going like, hey, how's it going? What's up? We need this done. Can you do this? And all that stuff. And there's an editing process. I'm a lot more hands off than like a big publisher would be. Because like big publishers like start wanting artists to like redraw stuff and panels and all that stuff, and I'm just like, no. It's like if I'm planning on publishing something, it has to be about what's supposed to like what you want. So if anything kind of throws me off of the project, you know, I wouldn't do it. I don't have that time to constantly go back and forth with you about this needs to be this way, and it's just not my inclination either. You know, like I wouldn't have people just redrawing pages and pages and pages of stuff. Like that wouldn't be something. Good. And then, as I said, like it's literally just like between then and basically the life of the thing. Like as a small publisher, we just kind of want you to keep talking about that project, just because like the press and stores and stuff are more aimed towards the larger publishers. So like with smaller publishers and independent artists, just in general, like you always have to keep your narrative going. Like you just always have to have, like, even if it's just tiny little things, like that's why you see like all these celebrities and stuff just posting like the most inane stuff. They just want you to be in their head, like them in your heads all the time. That's sort of like the same kind of thing. It's like talent is a component of success, but it's so much more. Because, yeah, like it's like I tell my daughter, it's just like talent is definitely a gift, but it's a widely distributed one. Like there's just a shit ton of talented people on this earth. So it's like talent is the thing that's going to make you stick out.
And now you got technology taking talent away from you.
Yeah, this is like a whole other thing that.
We're at 3:30. I'm ready to do questions. So if
Okay.
people have questions, I mean, how long does this go till?
10 more minutes.
340.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's all in the details.
Is it?
So I'm good with questions now, if, because, you know, I want to try and help you if we can.
Oh, wait, did you have one? I thought I saw your hand raised. Okay.
It was, yeah.
I'm just making sure, because I was gonna leave it towards the end. I guess on a more personal note, for both of you, how did you get into comics? Like, you think back far enough, like your interest in comics and publishing and stuff, just like your influences.
My aunt was dating a Vietnam vet who still had bullets stuck in his body, so he couldn't work, and he read comics. And I got stuck with my aunt. But yeah, so like that was pretty much what started it, and then I went to the art institute as a teenager to draw, and I wasn't very good. And like I had Tom Grinberg was like my one of my teachers for like the summer program, but I wasn't really good, and I moved to lit. And literally, I just started writing comics. because I don't have time to write novels. But then I started drawing just recently, again, for the first time in 35 years. Because I have a graphic novel that I write never. It's 310 pages that I can never afford an artist for. Yeah, that was it. Just stuff like that.
And my generation is generation where comics were in the pharmacies, drugstores, everywhere, grocery stores. So just being an introvert, it's what I, went towards. And then your friends were reading them, so you trade and swap and everything. And then just having that artistic bent when you're in school. So that's kind of, you just follow it that way.
It's pretty mundane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
spinner racks.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember those. Well, I remember you had a question before,
Yeah,
right? And then-
yeah, on the culture of publishers and like that being like a whole different world now, I'm not aware of, like, is there like periods of like interest where publishing kind of goes down in general, or like when you can tell that a studio isn't very interested in taking on any projects at the moment? Are there anything that we can do on our end to be more like appealing to publishers, other than like what you said about sometimes it's just about having connections and being known as a reliable, on-time, diligent artist, author, and also like, yeah, so that's like the whole culture of like publishers and whatnot. And also like if are publishers like, do they know themselves the process of creating comics in the project, or are they more thinking on the business end and they're just looking to publish projects or like that? And
You want
also,
to take it first?
oh yeah.
I would say this, right? They're like different levels of publishing. So like what you're talking about, like trends and all that stuff, that's more of like the upper echelon major publishers, because and agents, because they'll be like, we're looking for this now, and we're looking for that now, and we're looking for this now. And it's really weird, because it's just experts who don't really know much having to flex all the time. So they'll be like, this is hot now, so this is what we're looking for. This is hot. So, but like, and then for that, then for them, a lot of editorial decisions, like an editor will love it, but they have to prove that it's going to be marketable to the marketing people before they take it. So it's like a lot more people need to say yes for that. And for us, at our different levels, it's more about our passion.
Yeah.
Like, and that's true of like science fiction and comics. It's more like, this is like a really good project, or this is an artist that I believe will be really good. This is good, and I think that they will have a future. So it's kind of, it kind of just depends on what level you're trying to hit.
And, all right, thank you. And also, is there kind of a risk to us doing everything up front and then the publishing comes like months afterwards? Is there ever like a situation where the studio like retracts or like drops your project before it comes out?
I think again, that's more the big publishers
Okay.
where we do that. The smaller publishers, not so much, because if they're already at that stage, I feel like they're ready to take it the whole way. I can't imagine. Usually it's because the work's not done. That's, the couple instances where I say that, but then there was a project where we let it go because the numbers weren't there. So to your previous question about what the creator can do, I'm okay with the creator building their audience. If you want to put your work online and, make it accessible to be read, I am totally fine with that.
Like the whole thing?
One of our best-selling books, Salamander Dream, she had the whole book up online. Duncan the Wonder Dog, he had the whole book up online. So, it came to a point where it's like, I didn't see the sales getting cannibalized. So I'm okay. I would be okay with that. You're building your audience, and I'm hopefully taking you to even get a bigger audience.
Which is pretty much, like the,
Hopefully.
well, that's usually the hope of like most indie publishers, because like literally, we're not making,
Yeah,
we're not
we're
making money.
I'm the stepping stone, and I'm okay with that.
So it's really like, that is usually the main goal. Like, I mean, I know that I have heard about people getting ripped off and stuff like that, and that's like a whole thing that's true of any business. But the people that I know of that are like really good at what they do, like that is their goal, is to help you get to wherever it is that you're going to yeah. So I don't know about that whole book thing, but, but like, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be pirated anyway. Like,
Right,
I've already got that. Like,
Yeah,
that's
I used to
fine.
get worried.
But-
You would get
like,
like, you know, you look at your stats from your website, you're getting these bounce backs from your book being pirated.
Yeah.
Like, I need to get a lawyer involved.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Like, so I'm not fine with it, but I know there's nothing I can do. Like, I'm not gonna parachute into like Russia
Yeah.
or wherever it is. Like, give me my book. You know, like, yeah. But yeah, that's mostly the goal, is to help you. For most people. I mean, it looks like anything else, you have to be careful who you associate with. But yeah, that's mostly what folks are doing. And you know, if we struck lightning and didn't get rich, like that would be nice. But that's not what we're doing.
Yeah, so I'm gonna use an example to try to ask my question. So I know that the fine arts world and the comics world are not the same, but there's an overlap. And one of the things that is kind of a cliche or an idea, oh, just go to a gallery and bring your portfolio, but the gallery doesn't want to see your portfolio. And in fact, if you go and bring them your portfolio, you might like get blacklisted or whatever. Like they're not interested in that. And I mean, you were just saying like, put yourself out there, like just put yourself out there. But I am someone that does that. I try to actively do that, but it has been me in the ass sometimes before where people get inadvertently offended or whatever. So my question is, what are some faux pas like that we should avoid when we're just putting ourselves out there? Like what are some like, no, actually you shouldn't X, or that is going to be offensive. Or
The biggest thing, put your name on your work. I mean, I know that's not what you're asking, but there's so many publishers that we just have to keep saying this because we love this thing. We don't know who the hell it is. Who did this? And it'll happen. You think you would laugh about it, but it happens. So I would say put your name on your work and make sure you're associated with you building your audience. But then in regards to faux pas, I mean, it's a different world. So I don't know what that, you know.
Yeah, it's like, and so much of it is like literally. Okay, so.
I guess, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's like you do have to be out there because you need to be a part of a community that you want to be a part of. And a lot of it is like recommendations. And it's really bizarre because there's a lot of networking going on, but there's a lot of personal connections going on too. And there's like this really fine line, like, because it's sort of like you'll be at a convention and you know, but like, and we're a lot of us are associating with each other, and you know that like, in some ways, business might be getting done.
Yeah.
But like, that person is like, oh, you're Bill Campbell. I want to do this. And I'm like, I don't fucking know. like, you know what I
But
mean?
to that point, he's at a convention, so that's a place where, I mean, you're here, so it's getting out and making those connections.
Yeah, but it's like this really weird kind of thing
Yeah.
because it's like you don't want to feel like nobody wants to feel like they're being used, right? Nobody wants to feel like they're being targeted. But at the same time, you know that you are and you're targeting people and everything is going on.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a way that you do it. Like, I think there are a lot of people who would be totally fine with you bringing their portfolio and all that stuff, but because like I'm naturally an introvert, like I just wouldn't like it. Like I wouldn't like it. Like I'd just be like, yeah, that's nice. Like I just, you know what I mean? Especially because like usually at the table I'm by myself, so I'm actually trying to, sell stuff. But I love, talking to people and stuff. But it's like, yeah, it's a really weird game. And a lot of it just really has to do with the approach. And I think like the best approach with any of networking is like if I feel like you want to know me, not like, like dinner and candlelight and shit like that. But you know what I mean? Like, but a sax solo would be this. But yeah, like, I feel like that's just a much more organic feeling to it, and then.
Yeah, and that's in our submission guidelines, we always would say, look at what we've done. It doesn't make sense to, like, if you're doing an image book or, Marvel or DC book, why would you pitch that to Adhouse? It just doesn't make sense. So just know who you're talking to, know the language.
Yeah. So, yeah, but you do definitely have to go out there and meet people and just kind of, and if you're doing it in a certain kind of organic way, people really, because there are some people I know that I still avoid years later, because like, that's like the only thing that they're like, I got an idea. I'm like, yeah, I know. And it's usually bad. So that's like, that's like the other thing. But yeah.
I think that's it.
Is it?
3:40.
Man, you were just like on it. You just wanted to be.
I gotta go to the bathroom, really, that's fine. If you wanna hang out and talk more, you can, but I'm
No,
gonna.
I mean,
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah, we both have tables upstairs. If you have additional questions, by all means.
Yeah.
Come ask us them.
I'll be there in 15 minutes.
I'll be there about the same.
Yeah.
After I go to the restroom.
But yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yep, thanks.